Welcome back to Box Delights. For a while now you guys have been asking me about science fiction type games. It just so happens I've got a couple now I can show you. The first one I'm going to show you today is called Omega Centauri. It's a game by Nigel Buckle. It's published by Spiral Galaxy Games here in the UK. It's for 2 to 4 players and is a competitive game. I'm going to introduce this one to you as a solitaire because Nigel's working on a solitaire variant, and that's something that I've managed to get a sneak peek at and I want to show you today. And if you like the look and feel of the game, then you're going to find multiplayer may also interest you. There's 2 modes of play. There's a basic game and there's an advanced game, and this is the main board, if you like. This is what's going to record the state of the game, but tiles are going to represent the universe, and you're going to be exploring and conquering that universe. The advanced game is going to last longer. There's more rounds to the game. So we're going to show you the base game, and we're going to set up as per 2-player. This is the map layout that I've chosen. So these have been dealt randomly from a stack of these tiles which contain different planets. We're going to understand what each of those mean soon enough. And this represents Omega Centauri. There's lots of different setups. You can have a random setup. You can have 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, different setups, and they've all got different names. This setup's called the Gauntlets. We've got more for different numbers of players and different difficulties. Omega Centauri is ruled by an alien race called the Empire. That's our enemy. That's who we're trying to defeat. And they're our enemy whether we're playing in this solitaire variant or multiplayer. So multiplayer, you're battling against other players, but also against the Empire. Each player can take on one of these 8 different races, either randomly or you can select one. And our aim is to earn victory points by building a bigger civilization than the occupying empire, or indeed our other players, these other opponents. So let's just take one for the solitaire game. Try different ones. Each one has its own special power. Like the Jicks, they start with the research labs. That's not really a good choice for the base game. Let's go for something else. The Apocalypse, they've got a pretty good special power. As it goes for the solitaire variant, at this stage we're going to play that we ignore the alien race special power. So really the only thing that's going to be different for each are the starting forces. And there's some flavour text here to give you a feel for each type of race. Taking a closer look at the map, there's 3 different features you can see here. These face-down tiles now with the planets on. This side up, that's the Empire symbol, showing that those are under Empire control. These 2 here are barren sectors. There aren't any planets in here. They reflect the player's home sectors. So playing 2 players, one will play here, one will play here, right? So there's 2 home sectors. In the solitaire version, you can choose which home sector you wish to take. Obviously, it's a symmetrical map. It doesn't make any difference. And in the middle here, we have the Vortex Sector. And this represents like a black hole or wormhole or some gravitational distortion. And any of your fleets that are in these sectors adjacent to the vortex are considered adjacent to each other. So fleets can utilise this gravity created by the vortex to move more quickly around these sectors. You can never occupy the vortex, so this is kind of an uncontrollable area that just influence those sectors around it. We also have a bunch of tokens that represent the Empire. The black discs here are the Empire fleets, but what we're interested in now are these square ones. These are called development tokens. Right, they've got these arrows on the reverse. We're going to randomise them, place 1 development token and 1 Empire fleet on every sector controlled by the Empire. These development tokens are going to give each sector some kind of special power that you can use, some development skill. So you can see that there's quite a lot of random variability to every map setup. This big stack of unused development tokens. Go back to the box. We don't need those for now. The other thing we're going to do during setup is initiate our advancement of our culture. We're playing two-player when we're playing solitaire. You set it up as if it's a two-player, and we need one fleet token just to represent the empire as well. And with different levels of difficulty, you can push the empire further up the culture track to start the game. We've also got a bunch of tokens that control the empire AI and the empire development. These are called reaction tokens. For solitaire, we've removed these two that are the assemble and build. We don't need those or use those solitaire. The rest we shuffle, and we're going to place them on the round track. This is randomly, so there's only a couple in the basic game. On the advanced game, this track's a lot longer. And there's a round token here to reflect which round we're on. So this is going to control the AI. And now we're going to set up the resource pool. Resources are things you're going to be mining these planets for 4 different types of resources. And these are your means to building your empire and scoring victory points. So it says 2 players, 14 of each resource. Playing solitaire, we'll use only 8 of each resource type. We don't need to turn order track playing solitaire, but normally you would have, place one of your fleet tokens here and other players too, and you would adjust the turn order. It would cycle round like so. So on the first turn, if you're first, you get the next round, you go second, third, fourth, etc. Everything moves round. We don't need that, but we do each need a victory point tracker for your hundreds, tens and units. Score could go up to 1,000 here, you see. Our aim solitaire is to beat the Empire's score, multiplayer to beat your opponent's scores. We've also set up a technology board. You've got 2 sets of basic technologies and then 1 set of advanced technologies. We don't need the advanced technologies in the basic game. We only use 1 set of basic technologies in a 2-player game. So this other set can go back to the box. So we've just got 1 token here on each space. And in the basic game we also removed research labs and cloning. Okay, we'll look at these once we get started. As you require these technologies, on the reverse of each there's a symbol. So in here we've got this upside down triangle. On this one, nothing. Here we have this square. These are called mobilizations. Okay, so you're going to be collecting these. And there's a reference card here that I'll keep handy that shows you which mobilization tokens come with which technologies. We're not going to be using the improved mobilization tokens because we're doing the base game only. We're nearly done now and ready to go, but let's first set up our home sector. So each player would, in turn order, pick a home sector, place their starting fleets here, and follow the instructions on your race card for your starting forces. So we have 1 shipyard, 1 improved sector defence token, 6 reserve fleets, and 1 fleet in our home sector. These are the improved sector defence tokens, shipyards and monuments. We get 1 shipyard, 1 improved sector defence token. There's 2 sides. Sector defence, improved sector defence. We get 6 reserve fleets and 1 fleet in our home sector. 2, 4, 6 of these. 1 fleet to our home sector. And our reserves go to our player board. So each player gets a player board. Place them in the reserves. We won't need the 6 achievement guards that you'll use in the advanced game. We'll put those to one side. These stay in the supply, and we will need our focus tokens and some reference cards. This kind of acts as a player aid. We've got our resources, our focus tokens in here, our technologies will be here, and we're all ready to begin. The first thing you do when you begin is each player gets to choose 1 of these technologies. You can see if you're playing multiplayer in reverse turn order, the first player will pick first, and obviously there's only 1 of each one, so if I took this then other players couldn't choose that technology. Okay, so there is a lot of contention over the resources. In the solitaire game, the Empire's not going to take any of these away during this this process, but you can play campaign mode. So after each game, if there's any technologies that you used last time, remove it. So it means that as you string game after game together in a campaign, the available technologies for the start of the next game is reduced. So it makes it just a little bit harder and kind of emulates that feel of playing multiplayer. It's always good to take one of these warfare or combat technologies first. I'm going to take these torpedoes and we'll place this face down on our player board. So you can see I've got myself this mobilization now, right? So you place it face down. So we've got targeting, torpedoes, shield, assimilate, escape pods. Torpedoes inflicts 2 loss in the first round of each combat. Alright, so this is what this is going to do for me. So this little player aid will give you a summary of what each of these things does: robotics, orbital docks, architecture, sector defences, and so on. And now in player order we begin with phase 1. Each round is broken into many phases. Whether you're playing the advanced game or the short basic game, there's a reference for each. So acquisition phase first. This tells us to distribute resources. In the first turn of the game, you're not going to control any of these sectors. So when you're in the acquisition phase, what you're doing is you're gathering resources from those sectors you control. We don't control any apart from this barren sector, which gives us no resources. So we're going to move straight on to the second phase, which is the focus phase. And it's in this focus phase that we get to expand, invade, explore, and we've got these focus tokens. And the aim of these really is to reflect which actions we're taking. And normally playing multiplayer, you would place these face down, and then players would reveal and enact those actions. Playing solitaire, obviously there's no need for that, but what you can see is there's one token for each of these types of actions you can take. So there's a politics, there's assemble, there's build, there's move, and there's research. There's also a clone one, but in the base game this one's not used. We can put that back in the supply. The good thing about the player is it does give you a little reminder about what each of these actions do. Let's quickly look at these one by one. So for politics, I can take 3 resources from the resource pool, or I can take a mobilization token if I meet the requirements. A quick word on mobilization tokens first. So I've got this technology, torpedoes, which gives me this mobilization icon. These are the mobilization tokens. These are only used in the advanced game, so we can remove these. And you can see there's a short supply, so in particular playing multiplayer, there's going to be some contention over these. Now I have the circles, but you need 2. You need 2 of each of these icons before you can acquire them. And then for this one here, you need 1 of each. So let's see, let's go and grab the second one. I need the research action to go and grab a technology. So I'll use this as my first focus action. So I'm going to research. Remember, we've got this reference chart here to tell me which ones give me what. So we've got either one of these 3. I've already got torpedoes. It tells me that targeting and subspace radios can also help me. Here we are. This is a movement technology. Place this one over here. And as you can see, this gives me the second set of circles I want. So now I can take the politics action. Here it is, that's my second one, and grab this. And what this allows me to do, every time I grab a mobilization token, I can grab 3 of my unused fleets and add them to my reserve pool. So there's kind of a twofold benefit from researching in this way. You get extra technologies and you can boost up your reserves of fleets. Right, let's take that back and try something else instead. I'll take those away and put that mobilization token back. We'll put this technology back as well. The other thing you can do with the politics action, so let's do that once more, is take 3 resources, any 3 resources from the resource pool. Different coloured resources are good, alright, so you don't necessarily want 3 resources of the same colour. 3 resources, different colours are good to collect. Now as it goes at this stage, it's not going to matter too much, but I'll tell you why in a moment. We'll put these in our resource pool. Next, let's look at the yeah, that was research. Let's look at the assemble. So we can place, with the assemble action, we can place one of our reserve fleets in every sector. In each sector we control with at least one shipyard. And obviously for the beginning of the game that's not terribly productive because we've only got this one sector but with a shipyard. But here it is, here's our shipyard. We've got 2 fleets here now. The other thing assemble says is every time we use the assemble action we gain 1 resource from the resource pool. Again, it doesn't matter what we take. Let's just take a yellow. We'll leave build for the moment, we'll come back to that. What we really want to do is get some more sectors so that we've got places to build some stuff. Let's use the move as our final action. There's 2 ways to move. You can either pick a sector and move all fleets that are in range into that sector. So, you know, I could potentially say, right, I'm going to move this fleet in here, this fleet in here. Okay, so you're moving from multiple sectors to a single sector. Or you can move from a single sector to 1 or more sectors. So I might say, well, actually I'm going to choose, for my move, I'm going to move everything from here, and then you could move them to adjacent sectors. Okay, so our range at the moment is begins as 1 sector. So as we stand, let's go and move both our fleets here. This is also a fleet. You can move this fleet, but I'm going to keep this guy here because he's protecting my shipyard here. So let's move these 2 in here. And now we need to walk through the stages of combat because we've moved into a sector that contains enemy fleets. The first stage is called the approach, when we look at the combat technologies we have available to us, and then we look at the defences, if there's any defences in the sector. Immediately, if there's a defence sector here, then we would lose 1 fleet. If it was an advanced sector defence, we would immediately lose 2 fleets. That's the attacker. Okay, so these sector defences are pretty strong. Now we move into combat rounds, and this is really easy to resolve. 1 player is considered to have initiative or not. If the players have the same number of fleets in a sector, neither player has initiative, and both players remove a single fleet. So you can see if it was 2 against 2, then the combat rounds would resolve as no one has initiative, both remove a fleet, both remove a fleet, and then it's total destruction. In this scenario, we have 2 fleets, they only have 1. So in this case, we get to remove 1 of their fleets before they remove 1 of ours, and there we have the 2 against 1, and that's why we want to put 2 in there. Otherwise, it would have ended like this, and we wouldn't be controlling the sector. Likewise, if it's 3 against 2, we have initiative, so we remove 1 of theirs. But if they've got any fleets remaining, they get to hit back. So they would take 1 of ours. Then a new combat round, we have initiative, we take 1 of theirs. They don't have any fleets remaining, they don't take 1 of ours. If we have any fleets remaining, then we move into the final action of combat, the spoils of war. We flip up any development tokens, and we also flip up the tile. We didn't need our torpedoes at this point. The torpedoes allow us to inflict an additional fleet of damage. So if there was 2 here, then in the first round of combat we would have done 2, right? So it would have been, if it was 2 against 2, let's say, then on the first round of combat, with no one having initiative, we would have lost 1 fleet, they would have lost 2, and we would have still controlled the sector and got the spoils of war. We have 2 spoils of war. First, we gain 1 resource of this colour, it's a blue one. The development token. Some of these will be used immediately, some of them will be exchanged when we want to use them. This one we can exchange during the advancement phase, others will persist. So we'll come back to that one in the next phase. For now, 1 blue resource, which we grab from the resource pool. Now we're ready to move into the advancement phase. We may advance along the culture track and then score our victory points. Remember, the Empire starts at whatever level difficulty you want. I'm going to start down at era number 1, the early. But for us to advance, we need to pay the costs that are shown here. If we see a number in brackets, in square brackets, then it means we need to spend, in this case, 3 resources, each of a different colour. A number not in brackets, any 3 resources. This icon is a fleet icon. We must remove a fleet from our reserves. If we don't have a fleet in our reserves, then one that's in play. So for me to advance to the early era 1, I need to pay 3 resources and 1 fleet. And since I've got a planet that's producing blue resources, I'm going to spend 2 blue and then 1 of anything else. 1 yellow and then of course 1 fleet. And what's important is that these resources that we spent, they don't go back to the reserves pool, they go back to the stock. Now I can think about this development token. I'm not going to use it right now, but I could. But I'm going to use it when it's perhaps a little bit more beneficial. What this says is for 3 fleets paid out of my reserves, I can advance 1 spot on the culture track without paying any of the costs. If you've got enough resources, you can keep advancing up the culture track. You're not limited to just 1 advancement. I've only got 2 resources left. This next step costs 3, so next turn. But what's important now is that I earn victory points. I'm only going to get 1 victory point for being at the early level. The higher you go up, the more victory points you gain each turn. So I score a single point. The Empire is going to get a bit of a jump on me, but my job is to catch up. The other way to get victory points here is by any development tokens. Some of these development tokens give you a number of victory points each round. The other way is to build monuments. Monuments and improved monuments are going to give you an extra victory point, 3 for an improved one, every advancement phase. So they're an important structure to build, but you've got to defend them. Now let's move into the Empire phase, phase 4, and this is where the Empire will play out any of their effects. First, give the board a quick check. If there's any uncontrolled sectors, those without any fleets in them, we've got a fleet here, 2 here, there's Empire fleets everywhere else. If there were any abandoned sectors, we would flip them over to the Empire controlled side. And now the Empire reacts, and we look at the round track once more. Each round has an Empire reacts token that we're going to flip. Some rounds, like round 3 and round 5, also have an Empire technology token. So when we hit round 3, not only do we get this one, but we flip this one, and this will reveal a technology, just like the ones on the tech stack, but on the tech board. But all fleets in the Empire are deemed to have this technology, so they're going to power up. For now, though, for round 1, we have to enact this token here. It's a tough one. It's called Assemble and Develop. Every sector controlled by the Empire that has less than 3 fleets in it gets an extra fleet. That's right. These guys are powering up. That's the Assemble. But not only that, Assemble and Develop gives every Empire-controlled sector a new development token. So we need to go grab these from the stock. And the rulebook suggests taking these from a cup or placing them in a cup. That's no good. Don't do that, because when you pull them, you can't keep them face down. You have to look at them to see if they're face down or not. So I just keep them flat on the table. So this really isn't going to help our score. It's going to make a great challenge for the solitaire game. But it's alright, because, like I say, the Empire's going to take an early boost, but we can start hitting back, and that's the point. Find out where the enemy's gaining his points, attack those points, make sure you're looking for the most cost-effective way of gaining victory points and having the enemy, the Empire, lose theirs. In the solitaire game, the Empire's going to score at this point. First thing we do is advance in 1 spot up the culture track. So we really need to speed up our cultural advancement. We need to do this quicker than the Empire, because that's going to give him 3 victory points. However, for that cultural advancement, they do have to pay 1 fleet. You can't remove the last fleet from a sector, so if these all contained 1, you'd still advance, but he wouldn't have to pay the fleet cost. But we can choose which fleet we wish to use in payment. Let's take this one. But not only that, he's going to be scoring for his monuments. He doesn't control any monuments right now. 3 for improved monuments, remember. But the challenge playing solitaire is that the Empire's going to gain 1 victory point for every sector he controls and every development token he controls. There's 2 on each of these. That's 11 controlled sectors, 3 victory points from each. That's 33 points, which puts him on 36. We've got some work to do. And that's it, we're back to the beginning, so we move into the cleanup phase. We'll take our actions back. If there's any sectors that contain more than 3 fleets, then remember the stacking limit, we remove, not back to the stock, but back to our reserves. Okay, so we can call in our reserves, boost up a sector, stacking limit pushes them back to our reserves. Lastly, for the Empire, and this is kind of, remember these rules are still in development, so this is just an idea that Nigel and I have been talking about. Take those tokens, the second set of technology tokens, place them in a bag or a cup, draw one at random, and this is going to represent the Empire player taking one of those technological advancements that you can now no longer take. Alright, so it kind of gives you that feel that you're actually playing against an opponent. Of course, it is going to step up the difficulty. In the multiplayer game, you'd advance the turn order, and finally we move a round token up for next time. The good news now, as we move into the next turn in the acquisition phase, I'm going to get the 1 blue resource income from the planet that I now control. This comes from the reserve pool, and you've probably already spotted this reserve pool is very limited. What this means is, as the game progresses, potentially this pool is going to empty, and some of these resources, particularly these blue ones, are going to empty quicker than others. That's going to make it more difficult for you to advance up the culture track. But what it does mean is, if I need to take a blue resource because I'm generating income and there aren't any available in the reserve pool, I take a victory point instead, 1 victory point. So grabbing these planets, grabbing these development tokens is not only your way to getting these resources, but also potentially earning victory points. I'm going to play on then through a few more turns, perhaps take the game to the end, and we'll come back, have a look and see how we did. How did I measure up against this solitaire AI? Is it a good challenge? Is it too easy, too difficult? And give you some final thoughts. Wow, that was intense. It's very finely balanced. At the moment I'm a good 28 points behind. We have managed to control quite a few sectors. In the final round you don't play the Empire phase or the stacking phase. And that's quite important because I had the opportunity to move my home fleets away here and abandon this sector, but we're not going to lose this area. Not that it matters actually for the final round, but do think about that. If you abandon a sector, that's okay. You're not going to lose it back to the Empire because we've reached the end of the game already. We did have a few problems with the technology. We couldn't build monuments because the Empire took that tech, but we did manage to defeat a sector where the Empire had built a monument and we then improved it. So that gave us a few extra points. What we need to do now though is see if we can catch up, because right at the end of the game the Empire's done his final scoring. These deployment tokens and own sectors were really massing his score, but we have to then do an end of game scoring for the player. First off, we'll take 2 points for each unimproved monument. We only have this improved monument, but that's going to give us 6 points. 6 points for each improved monument. Takes us up to 68. 4 points for every shipyard that we control. Now unfortunately we don't control this sector anymore because we moved our last fleet. So yeah, we used it to take this sector down here, but we lost control here. So this shipyard doesn't count, but we do have 2. So that's another 8 points, taking our score to 76, or 176 actually. We're already up to the hundreds. Scoring's quite low in this base game. Then we gain 6 points for every sector we control. Okay, we've got our home fleet here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 36 points. We have victory. This goes up to the 2, and then 10, 20, 30. We're on 220. And then we score points equal to our culture. We've reached culture level 6. This means for every set of 4 resources that you manage to collect, you get 6 points. If you can figure out a set of 4 unique resources, then you double it. You'd get 12 points. This is a set that's worth 12. 2 times 6. As it goes, we didn't collect any, so that leaves our scores as they were. And in actual fact, Empire should be up on Era 5 at the end of the game, so that would have been an additional 7 points. 222 versus 197. We've managed to pull out a marginal victory. Well, you can see it was kind of finely balanced. I had these development tokens that were giving me victory points each turn. Finding ways to generate fleets seemed to be my biggest problem, but I think that's because I just didn't take the right technologies early on. Possibly, at the start of the game, allowed players to take 2 fleets instead of 1, just to give you that boost on mobilisation. So that's my recommendations. Look out for the official solitaire rules. Meanwhile, go and pick this up for the multiplayer, because it does give you some real tight resource management, resource conflict, and this is really, really one of those games where you can bash on your opponents. That was Omega Centauri from Spiral Galaxy Games.